Welcome, Richard Skipworth.
Oh, how'd you do? Thank you for inviting me.
So Richard's probably the most famous greeting cards artist in the world just now. You've probably seen his work all over the place, and yeah, he's absolutely brilliant. So when were you first diagnosed with being artistic, Richard?
It's been with me since childhood, I think. I
Yeah,
was um, I was always very keen on drawing and sort of sketching stuff. And my dad used to be a commercial artist at one point, so I think I inherited his arty bits really.
yeah.
Uh, so yeah, I was always liked it, but strangely, I was always kind of discouraged from doing it really because it's not a proper job, is it? Really, it's doing this arty stuff.
Yeah.
You can't get away with that. And my dad was originally a commercial artist, and I don't know, he he put me off it a bit because he rang he's a rat race son. You don't want to go into that. Uh, Not only that, he sort of gave up being a commercial artist and became an engineer.
Right.
Where he thought, well, really, you ought to be getting a proper job, mate, and do engineering or something sciencey. And the school I went to, the grammar school I went to, they were very much a sort of a traditional science-based place, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. They only let you do art really if you were crap at sport, or or if it was raining and you couldn't play sport. So then they let you do a bit of art in the art room, which involved, I don't know, just reading art books. Really, that was about it. And
Yeah.
all along the line, the signs were that you don't want to go near this art nonsense, mate. It's a waste of time, and you should do a proper job. So I started doing that, but I kept up doing drawing and stuff. It was always something that was in me, really. And anyway, I went to university, and sure enough, studied science there. I did a degree in physics, which is not the best sort of gateway to being a cartoon. And after that sort of 3 years of doing that, and I came out of university, and I realised I really didn't want to be doing this science nonsense anymore.
Yeah.
I wanted to be an artist, and so I set about trying to do this, much to my mother's consternation and worry, because I just sort of theoretically abandoned a perfectly good education
Mm, yeah.
to become some bearded, airy, arty type. So what I did, I sort of worked out the way to, or the pathway to get into the market of doing arty stuff. First of all, you had to have a portfolio of work.
Mm,
So I went and got a job doing loads of temporary jobs with like a temporary work company.
right.
You do all sorts of kind of menial tasks in factories and stuff
Yeah.
on a short-term basis. Um, Almost like hourly contracts now, these days, but not quite as bad as that. So I would do a month's work doing stuff like I used to work in a freezer factory, freezing mackerel. That was good.
Right.
And another one was shoveling scrap metal up. That was good, but got covered in oil and other cancerous materials, I expect.
Yeah.
And then after I'd sort of get a month's pay behind me, I'd take a month off and I'd work on drawing up a portfolio.
Yeah.
And I don't know, well, it was okay, I think. And I've been to various places to try and sort of get work as an artist. I went to various publishers and so on and tried to wheedle my way in.
Mm,
No great success. And then discovered there was an advert in the local newspaper for they wanted a graphic designer to help design adverts for the local
mm,
paper. And they were part of a larger group. So I applied for that, and I got an interview, and incredibly, I was given the job. because apparently I was very enthusiastic. They were giving me the job not on the basis of my portfolio, which they thought was okay, but on the basis of the fact that I really wanted to do it. And
Yeah.
they could
So,
see the glint of madness in my eyes.
so the artwork you were doing when you were quite young then, was that cartoony based or was it,
Yeah,
spaceships?
it was loads. I was used to be a big fan of Marvel at the time,
Yeah.
and Jack Kirby in particular, all his work was sort of made a bigger impact on me. And I spend my days copying all that sort of stuff, and tracing it and drawing it and using you know what a pantograph is?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I used to make some big reproductions of Marvel panels using a pantograph,
Right.
and I do that all the time. And yeah, so that was the kind of thing I was interested in doing then.
Yeah.
And of course, there wasn't much opportunity to draw Thor or the Hulk when I was working for the newspaper doing adverts, but nonetheless, that stood me in good stead. And uh,
What did it teach you working on a newspaper? Because obviously you've got restrictions working in print, haven't you? Especially, I guess, with newspapers.
yeah, it was a tremendous learning experience, really, because there was two other guys who were part of the art department, and they really took me under their wing, really,
Yeah.
and taught me all sorts of stuff about graphics and how to get stuff done that's okay for reproduction, and also trained me up in the art of getting used to deadlines because we had a deadline every day basically to get stuff out.
Yeah.
And they just taught me loads of stuff, and I'm eternally grateful to them really. And one of the guys there, he was a superb artist in his own right, rather than just a designer. He was an excellent artist, and he he used to do these big full page spreads of advertising stuff, and he would draw a sort of kind of central picture for this.
Hmm.
Very immaculate stuff. I was just so thoroughly impressed by it, and the fact that you could make a living out of it. That I was convinced I was in the right place.
So,
But
so when
I,
did sorry to interrupt you. So when did you
I
take the plunge to go freelance?
That was a few years later. It was probably in the 80s, I think,
Yeah.
84, I think. I'd worked at the newspaper for quite a while, and then I decided to branch out and go and work for advertising agencies and do sort of kind of
Right.
better. And there was a bit of a market there for me drawing cartoons and things.
Yeah.
And I'd worked in that for a couple of years, and then I think I went back for another tour of duty at the newspaper because the management had changed then, and they thought, oh, there's this young lad from an advertising agency, he must know what he's doing. So they gave me another job back at the newspaper under different management.
Right.
And after a while, I thought, well, I quite fancy this freelancing. Really, I thought it might be a way of sort of doing more of what I wanted to do,
Yeah.
and I managed to get quite a lot of clients via the newspaper, and they agreed to give me work for sort of working on a freelance basis for them. But of course, there was a bit of cartooning in there, a bit of illustration. Mostly, it was graphic design, though.
Yeah.
But I was quite interested in I was just kind of doing something else, and the work was drying up a bit, being a graphic designer.
Yeah.
And I was getting a bit fed up with doing adverts for double glazing firms and
Yeah. Yeah.
boiler manufacturers and stuff. Um, but my wife spotted an advert in again in a newspaper, and it was a greetings card company looking for somebody. It was a company called Web Ivory, and
Right.
they did a big catalog every year, and they would just it was loads of greetings cards. You buy the stuff kind of online, and they'd be personalized greetings cards. So if you were a
Right.
company, you could get your company logo and stuff printed inside. And they were looking for somebody who would actually do their catalog for them,
Hmm.
design the catalog rather than designing cards. And so I trekked up to Burton-on-Trent and trekked all the way up there in hideous weather in a soft top sports car I owned at the time, and of which the soft top would actually blow off at 50 miles an hour. So you had to keep it really, really quite cold weather. And yeah, got there, and they said, "Oh well, thanks for coming, but we decided to fill the job internally. So sorry to waste your time, but they said, well, we'll have a look at your portfolio anyway."
Hmm.
And they said, "Oh, you've got a few cartoons in here, and we do cards with loads of cartoons on. So why don't you send a few in?" And I thought, well, I might as well give it a go. I've got nothing else to do basically because the work kind of dried up.
Hmm.
So, over the next couple of weeks, I designed a few cartoons and sent them in, and incredibly, they bought them. And so, oh yeah, we like these. And have you got any more? I said, yeah. And I said, well, we'll pay for these, of course. And I done four cards they liked, and they said, yeah, we'll pay you £100 for your artwork. I said, what, £100 for four cards? That's really good. And I said, no, £100 each. I thought, wow. I've just spent a couple of hours and I've made 400 quid. I thought that was great. So I immediately, of course, set to and did loads more cartoons and sent them off.
Right.
Uh, I was yet again amazed, and they bought those too. Said, "Oh, we really like these, Rich. Can you keep on going?" So that kind of started me off doing greetings stuff.
How does it work in terms of, I mean, do they buy the copyright from you? Do they actually, buy the cartoon
Yeah,
outright?
they yeah they did at the time. It was they had an all rights agreement that you basically it came with the check that said,
Right.
we've given you this money, and that means you've got money, but we've got the rights, and
Oh, yeah.
forever, in fact. It's an all-time world rights agreement, which I would never ever sign these days.
Right.
But then, I was young and naive and broke, so I didn't really care.
Yeah. So, well, when you're drawing these cartoons for cards, what sort of scale would you draw them as?
Actually, same size I was working at most of
Yeah.
the time, which was when I knew you could draw stuff bigger and then so on, but actually I thought, well, it's easier just to draw them same size. So,
Yeah. Less
but
colouring in.
yeah, which is okay, all very well, but a lot of the stuff was quite tiny details, so I was using a rotring pen of a 0.18 nib, that kind of thing. But,
Ah, okay.
yeah, it was all done same size.
And
Um,
so I was going to say,
yeah,
what sort of restrictions? I keep on doing this question, but what sort of restrictions did you have in terms of printing there as well? So, did you have to stick to a range of colours, or was it full colour printing?
no, it was full color printing, yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
and there were no restrictions on anything really.
Yeah,
Uh, in fact, the reproduction was pretty good, and so I
yeah,
didn't have any problems with that. Later on, I was asked to do a larger card, well, more complex cards.
yeah.
The sort of cards which if you were like I don't know, a car dealership or something like that, they'd want a complex looking card with lots of cars in and something funny happening with usually Santa and cars and that kind of stuff. And lot of work in it. So obviously I had to work bigger then. So I was working about, I don't know, twice size up, that kind of thing.
Right.
Loading it in with loads of detail, and they liked that.
Yeah.
They said, "Oh, we like all these cars with lots of detail, Rich. So there's plenty more work coming your way if you can do more detail." So sure enough, I set to and did more and more detail stuff. It was just uh, very well. Initially, it was quite a sort of busy time. It was and sort of getting paid for doing um, oh well, just sort of cartoon work, nothing else. You didn't
Hmm.
have to design logos or anything like that. It's
Yeah.
very and but it was ticking away okay. And then I was always dealing with the same bloke at Web Ivory. It was the same art director. And Web Ivory was a very big company, and I thought it was a bit odd. I never spoke to anybody else.
Hmm.
It turned out, I learned later, that he was keeping me secret because he had me as chief artist, and I would be doing his cards, and nobody else knew who I was.
Right.
But it leaked out to other departments at Web Ivory, who were part of a larger group called Fine Art Graphics, I think, at the time, which they were huge.
Yeah.
And a guy called Dave Nichols was one of the art directors there. He was the main art director for Fine Art Graphics. And he got in touch and he said, "You guys been working for Mike Hill doing those corporate cards?" I said, yeah, yes. And he said, oh, tracked you down. I said, we got loads more work for you if you want to do it. And he came and saw me and stuff, and we talked about it. And I said, well, how much work have you got? And he said, well, how much do you want? So I said, as much as you've got. So he said, fine, got loads of it. And he, true to his word, they just asked me to do loads and loads of stuff.
Yeah.
And that was when the cartooning then went into complete overdrive. Then it was a full time, 7 days a week, 12 hours a day job, and all working to the deadlines were fairly loose, really, actually, because it was a lot of it was
Yeah.
Christmas stuff. So you had to get everything done for Christmas in around about July, which was bizarre. But after a couple of years of that, you got used to drawing snowmen and
Yeah.
middle of bloody summer.
Does
Um,
it does it
yeah,
change the way you see the world in terms of are you always, or at the time were you always like carrying a notepad and writing down, if your output was so
yeah,
massive, you'd be constantly trying to find, jokey things to draw.
yeah. I would carry a notebook with me, and I would scribble bits and pieces down. Not to a great extent, though, and in fact, I should have done because the thing with ideas is you can have a really good one, and about 10 seconds later, if you don't write it down, you've forgotten the bloody thing.
Yeah, especially these days for me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's happening with me even then. So really, I should have done more of that.
Yeah.
But then what I relied on was you'd get the well, not that there wasn't much of a brief when you got a brief from Web Library. It was can you think up half a dozen Christmas cards by end of the month, and that
Hmm.
was it. There's nothing else. So yeah, I was just thinking stuff up and sitting down, drawing it as
Yeah.
much as I just sit down. It was get up in the morning, get to your drawing board, start drawing, and scribble stuff about till it looked like Christmas stuff, and then get on with it. You had to send off the roughs, and it was in the days when fax machines were the high
Yes.
technology. Yeah, and that was a bonus. Really, what it was when I actually got my own fax machine, because prior to that, I had to go downtown and you find a sort of local printer who had a fax machine and fax it from them. But yeah, I got my own Amstrad fax machine,
I
and
remember those. Yeah.
oh yeah, that was cutting edge. That was, mate. I'll tell you. But,
So did you have to just get them okayed then? You'd send a rough off and say, is this okay before I sort of ink it in and
yeah,
follow
yeah,
it?
yeah. Just a sort of pencil scribble, really, with
Yeah.
a few notes on, and they, well, with a fax thing, you get a phone call back the same day, really. But they were pretty good. And after a
Mm.
while, they knew what my style was going to be like, so there was no real problem with getting stuff approved, really. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, they felt most of the stuff I did, they took. I didn't really have any backlog of designs that were unused. A few I did, but it was
Yeah.
pretty good. Yeah, so and that went on for years. I was doing working for well, Fine Art Graphics. They had loads of big clients as well.
Yeah.
Loads companies around the world would sort of buy their cars and so on. Then what happened there was a bit of a merger, and they changed their outside offices, like the Web Library place in Burton-on-Trent. They closed that down and moved everybody up to Bradford, which was their main base. And things changed a bit then. Um, People who knew who I was, I dropped off their phone lists, I think, when they sort of moved offices or mainly changed staff.
Mm.
So the fine art graphic stuff began to dwindle a bit. Um, so I began to look around for other companies then. And fortunately, it turned out that they knew who I was because I'd become well known. It's
Mm.
just, I didn't know that, but they'd heard of me. So I managed to get work fairly quickly after that with other greetings card companies. The likes of, well, I think I worked for all the main ones, really. Hallmark, I did quite a bit of work for. There was a company called, well, Paper House. I don't know if you heard of them, but I used to work for
Mm.
them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the biggest one was a company called UK Greetings, which were second only to Hallmark. Well, the thing I didn't realize when I first got into greetings cards was how big an industry it was.
Yeah.
I thought it was like a little cottage industry of, I don't know. I just thought people did a few bit of scribbles and do like a couple of cute dogs with bows in their hair and that kind of thing,
Hmm.
and or a vase of flowers with "Happy Birthday, Mum" on it. Uh, but no, there's a huge market for every kind of style you can imagine, and it was vast. There was a trade fair every February at the NEC,
Hmm.
which used to occupy three, four halls of the NEC, so it was huge. And there'd be all the country's greetings card companies there exhibiting, and also you could go around and see them and take your portfolio around and get work.
Right.
Which and actually briefly for a while I was kind of guest of honor at the wood ivory stand where they would invite me in and give me sandwiches and free booze. I was I was briefly their star artist. Yeah, that was quite good. But yeah, when I was looking for other work, I found a company called UK Greetings. They had an offshoot called Hanson White, which is based in Croydon, and they loved me. They sort of took me in, paid me loads of work, and they did a royalty scheme as well, which is really good.
Oh, right.
That was a kind of risk, really. The You could either have a flat fee for a card, or you could take a royalty payment for a smaller upfront fee, which would be classed as advance royalties.
Right.
So the card that you take an advance royalties on, before you got any extra royalties, had to earn in excess of the initial fee, which
Yeah.
was 150 quid, I think, at the time. That would have to, and the royalty percentage is about 4%, which is quite low. So that all those 4% of the sales of the cards had to add up to more than 150 quid
Yeah.
before you got any extra cash. But if you did loads and loads of cards, which I did,
Yeah.
uh, if a lot of them sold pretty well, then you could make quite a good living at that. And but you had to sort of, it was a gamble. I didn't know whether it was worth it or not. But
Yeah.
as me and as a friend of mine, and we both signed up at the same time. And so we decided, yeah, well, we'll give this royalties thing a go. We don't know if that's going to work or not, but what the hell. And yeah, it worked out really pretty well. I mean, I haven't worked for UK Greetings for about 15 years now. Still keep getting a royalty check coming in,
Brilliant.
which is amazing. It's yeah, it's all just dwindled down from its peak at the time, but there's still a hefty check comes in now and then,
Yeah.
which is yeah. So that was a kind of that was a life-changing point, really, doing stuff on a royalty basis.
Yeah.
I also retained quite a bit of the rights for it as well. If it's stuff that I'd thought up, then I retained the copyright too, which is good. Not that you could quite often sell the work anywhere else, but
Yeah.
it was still a pretty good deal.
Ah.
Yeah,
Did you find that certain types of your cards worked better in certain countries? 'Cause, I've lived in America for a few years. I'm in Glasgow now, but their sense of humour is a lot different, isn't it, to
yeah,
the UK? So,
yeah. Um, we did sell quite a bit of stuff into America because UK Greetings was actually owned by another enormous corporation called American Greetings,
hmm,
and so a lot of the word just got transferred across to America. But we had to make some of them. We had to make quite a few changes in. There was one. If you're doing like Christmas cards, inevitably cartoon robins turn up at some point or
oh
other.
yeah, of course.
But they weren't too keen on robins in America. It wasn't a sort of traditional Christmas thing.
Yeah, they're not often there, I
But
don't think.
no, for them it was parakeets.
Oh, right.
Who knew? So a lot of the cartoon robin cards I don't know had to redraw as parakeets. And of course,
Right.
it made no sense to me whatsoever. What the hell are these? There's little yellow birds. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, and the humour was different. UK Greetings would have gag writers, and they would send you the gag, and you would just have to illustrate it with a cartoon. So quite often you get these rather strange off-kilter bits of humor and things that just didn't really make a lot of sense, really. But it seemed to work. But mainly my stuff was in the UK then.
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was it strange just sort of going through life and just seeing your work in random places? I mean, did you actually get any cards sent to you that had your work on it?
Yeah, loads. Yeah, all my family thought it was really funny to send me my own cards, of course. Uh, yeah, I got loads of birthday cards that I recognise that were mine. Um, but yes, it was great going around places like Clinton's, and you'd see all your cards on display. In fact, what I used to do was go and find my cards and put them in front of my competitors' cards. So I spent quite a lot of time doing that. Yes, it was quite interesting that to see all the stuff about. Um, and it was the same actually with UK greetings. They had another company that did a lot of giftware,
Hmm.
a company called the Expressions Gift Company, and they had a whole range of stuff with the world's greatest on it, like world's greatest dad, mum, and so on. And I was asked to, would I mind doing a few designs for their giftware section?
Hmm.
So, in an effort to grab even more money, I said, yes, of course. How much work have you got? And I worked out if I didn't sleep all that much, I could probably get it done. But yeah, there's loads of my stuff appeared on sort of giftware stands and stuff. So I
Yeah,
did ranges of world's greatest stuff for years, really. And
yeah, I've seen them.
yeah, they were just nice stuff to do, really. Their expressions were great because they just said, "Well, can you think up something?"
Hmm.
And that was it. You know, there was no brief. It says, "Well, we like a range of 48 mugs. Can you think of something, Rich?" So that was it, which was a joy to me because I like working without interference, really.
Yeah, I like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
rarely happens, but for the expressions company, it's great. And the head of expressions would come round. He'd go off to China, and he'd find all these factories there which would do all kinds of sort of loads of tacky stuff, but some quite interesting, so technically interesting bits and pieces like
Hmm.
holographic designs, that kind of thing.
Right.
And he would sort of get all these samples, and he'd come back from China and come round to my house here with this big box of stuff. And he said, "Can you have a look through this and see if you can do anything with all this?" So that was the briefing process then, and
Right.
I'd sit down, draw a load of stuff, and then we'd try and get it made. And yeah, it went on like that for a long time. Oh,
Um,
very interesting.
I used to work as an artist, but in computer games, but I started off in like the 80s and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And right, so there's a couple of things that I just cannot draw to save my life. And so it's basically bicycles and horses, and
Oh yeah.
by extension, some things like reindeers and that sort of thing, and cows.
Uh, yeah.
What about you? Is there anything you can't draw? Or you've tried and you just can't draw?
Yeah, I'm rubbish at doing caricatures. I just
Ah,
just
yeah,
I can't get my head around that. I've tried, and I think it requires a different shaped brain to the one I've got. I think it's
yeah,
some friends of mine who are caricaturists. They don't seem to be able to do the same kind of gag cartoon stuff that I do. So that's some compensation really. So it serves them right for being so clever ass kids really.
um,
I
I,
tried doing it. And I just
yeah.
my attempts at it are just rubbish really, and I don't enjoy doing it either. I find it just a sort of labour. So
Yeah, I've had to go myself, but I, I, they always come out looking a bit too real. They
yeah,
look like they got to look like the person, haven't they? But I can't get that. It just looks like a person, but
yeah,
colored in stupid cartoon colors.
that's it. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I abandoned that really. Whenever people ask, if you tell people you're a cartoonist, they always say things like, "Oh, can you draw me?" No, they go away all disappointed. But,
Well,
horses I can draw. I'm okay with horses.
oh, is right.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
the anatomy.
well, you're good at monks as well, aren't you? How did the monks
Oh
come
yeah. The monks was quite good, really. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
a thing started again with Web Ivory. That was
yeah.
one of the earliest things I did for them, really. Um, that guy I mentioned earlier, Mike Hill, he said I was doing a load of Christmas stuff, and he said here's a range of these cars that we've been selling quite well for years, and they feature these monks.
Yeah.
So they were all sort of little toony, semi-realistic, jolly monks, just being drunk really, and no, walking through the snow, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And but the artist who did them, he died, and they wanted to carry on this series of monks things.
Mhm.
For some reason, they were very popular, and he said, "Could I have a go at doing that?" And I did, and around about the time I was doing it, so computers in artwork and business were beginning to sort of become prominent. And
Mm.
I thought about an idea of combining monks and computers so that you'd have, rather than doing, I don't know, extensive illuminated manuscripts, I had a monk working up some sort of illuminated design on a computer and doing it quicker than the guy next to him with a pen and ink.
Mm.
This sold like hotcakes then. It was really, really became instantly one of their best sellers for because most businesses then were transitioning into having computers, and they liked the fact that they got a card with a humorous computer-like design in it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, well, if you read these are good. Rich do some more with cards with computers and monks in. So I started doing monks and technology cards, and these became really popular. I was sort of a golden boy at Web Ivory then for a bit, and
Go- Going back to the American thing, because they're quite religious, aren't they? Or they've got a different view about religion. Did that translate okay into the American market, the monks?
Um, no, we never really sold anything with the monks over there, I don't think. That was
I
all.
don't think they actually have monks over there, though, do they?
I don't think I don't think they've heard of them really. They've got no history of being of monasteries being raided by Vikings over there, have they? So they avoided all that.
Yeah.
No, it was a purely sort of English humour, really. In fact, my humour generally, I think, is sort of it's pretty English, really. It's sort of that kind of whimsical English
Mm.
touch to it, I think. So, yeah, I don't think it's particularly Americanized. Well, yeah, having said that, in later years, um, have you seen my Greyhound stuff that I've been doing?
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
That's very popular in America.
Right.
But that sort of that came after I came out of doing cards, really. That's a sort of another tale in itself, in a way. But I a lot of the card eventually the couple of the card companies like UK Greetings um, sort of shrunk down slightly, and they relocated all their staff up to Yorkshire. And Hanson White, who were based in Croydon, they were given the option either move up to Yorkshire or, in fact, Bradford, or lose your job, basically. So
Yeah.
a lot of them get opted out, and the people I used to know at Hanson White all sort of a couple of them went to Bradford, but most of them just sort of wandered off into the sunset.
Yeah.
So a lot of the work I was doing for Hanson White kind of dried up. UK Greetings got Expressions gift company got bought up by a company who didn't want anything to do with the previous work that Expressions
Uh,
was doing for no apparent reason.
yeah.
So that all came to grief. They sent me a contract saying that could you sign this contract so that all the work you've done previously for Expressions we will now have all time world rights for forever. So I said, no, I'm not going to sign that. So I'm off. So I left it to it, and consequently, all the copyright remains with me for all the world's greatest stuff. Not that I ever,
Brilliant.
not that I ever want to sell it again. There's a limit. And, yeah, so that was a bit of a come down when the expression
Mm.
went. And so again, I sort of moved on to try and find other work, and my wife again spotted an advert in the paper or in the magazine, probably online, and it was for the Weird Fish clothing company, and they were looking for artists, and in fact they were running a competition, asking you to design a T-shirt. They did loads of humorous T-shirts with all kind of like with fish-based fun, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why I don't know how they came up with the name Weird Fish, but they have. So their t-shirts were very popular, and they all had cartoon fish designs on the backs.
Hmm.
And they were looking for new artists, and Jill suggested, "Well, why don't we have a go at this then? 'Cause haven't
Hmm.
got much work to do, so have a go at this." So I thought, well, I might as well. So I had a look at the Weird Fish range of shirts and thought up a couple of designs, sent them in. And foolishly, they didn't put a limit on the number of designs you could send in. So I sent one in every day until they gave up. And because the prize was that you'd see your design on the shirt, and we'd have an option to maybe take you on as an artist at Weird Fish. So when they finally gave up under the deluge of designs I'd be sending in, I went round to see them at their head office, which is not far away. It's just in Cheltenham, up the road from me. And they said, "Yeah, okay. Then, do you want to work for us then?" So I said, "Yeah, okay." So it was as simple as that, really. And they said, "Well, just go. Can you just think up some more fish-based designs, and we'll see what we think, and then we'll go from there."
Yeah.
Did, and it went on really well from there because they turned out to be a really great company to work with. Again, no interference really. It was just they'd maybe make a few suggestions that maybe you could think up something based around, I don't know, best-selling albums from the 70s or something like that.
Yeah.
Or that was sort of retro feel to it, maybe Rich, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And after that, it was just left up to me to do it. So I would just send the designs in, and they happily would pick quite a reasonable amount of them.
Hmm.
And yeah, started working with them, and I became their chief designer. I think I was classed as at one point, and yeah, everything went on really quite well with Weird Fish, and I got loads of free clothing, which was really good. Most of what I've got on at the moment is actually Weird Fish gear that's from a couple of
All
years.
right.
Logo on there, so yeah, it is. Yeah, Weird Fish. But yeah, they were good, and also after about I was working doing other sort of cartoony stuff. I was doing I decided to print my own cards after a while.
Yeah.
I thought, well, the monks have sort of ceased publication at Web Library because they folded. I thought I might as well dig them out again and see if I can sell them myself.
Hmm.
Because we were now in the age of the internet, and self-publication was becoming quite easy to do.
Yeah.
So found a local printer. Well, I've been working with them for years anyway, and we printed them some sample monks cards up, advertised them online, and see if anything would happen. And yes, it did. It turns out I had quite a legion of monks fans from Web Ivory, and they'd been looking for monks cards for a couple of years after they disappeared, and they wondered what had happened to them. They thought the artist was dead. So he wasn't. He was still here. So I was, yeah, printing those, and we were. Um, well, it's quite easy to personalize them so that people get their own, names and addresses in, or company names, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, started doing that. I was also working for a lot of companies that did corporate greetings cards. So a bit
Yeah.
like Web Library's complex cards,
Yeah.
but in fact exactly the same, really.
Yeah.
Uh, so I was working for them, and also calendar companies.
Right.
I was doing a lot of calendar work, including the funny side of horses. Uh,
Right.
so that was a rapid learning curve in how to draw cartoon horses. But yeah, I was doing Weird Fish and corporate Christmas cards and calendars, cards for a few other companies as well. So kept busy all that time, really.
Did you ever get any mass orders from monasteries for your monk cards
Um,
that you know
not,
of?
I did try. I sent some samples to numerous monasteries. So no joy there.
Right. Yeah.
If you think it'd be natural, wouldn't you? You think
Yeah.
you'd have thousands of orders, but no.
Going back to computers a little bit. So, Has the way you've drawn changed over the years? Have you switched to digital at all, or is it still
Um, the way I draw hasn't changed really, but just the techniques have. Uh,
yeah,
because once drawing digitally became, well, firstly affordable and secondly technically feasible. So you could draw something and there wouldn't be any time lag between what you mark on your pad and what appears on the screen. And you had proper control over colors and stuff. That was like a revelation to me, really.
yeah,
It was prior to that, I was using traditional media, mainly airbrush actually,
right.
and which is quite a time-consuming process. Airbrushing, you have to mask everything off, cut out the area that you're going to spray,
Yeah, yeah,
let it dry, that kind of thing. Um, you get a beautiful finish at the end of it, but it was quite labor intensive. And once I got the hang of Photoshop, well, in fact, there was a company software called Painter at one time,
yeah.
still going, one of the earlier versions of that, and that allowed you to work in layers, and that was incredible, because it's like masking with an airbrush, but you didn't have to sort of worry about spraying paint everywhere,
Yeah, yeah,
and the actual, the ability to draw stuff digitally was such a huge time saver. Uh,
mm,
I also found it, one thing I didn't expect, because I was a bit of a Luddite about it to start with, because I thought,
yeah,
oh, it's never going to look the same. You're never going to have the same feel to it, and it's never going to be quite right because but I'll give it a go. And it was becoming more of an imperative to work that way with the printing industry going the way it was.
yeah,
They didn't really want to spend the time having to spend money getting your artwork scanned. Um,
yeah,
you were much more happy if you could supply them with a Photoshop file, which they didn't have to do anything with. They could just press go on the press, and that was it, really. So they liked that.
yeah,
Same with publishing companies. They would much prefer digital artwork to traditional on a piece of board artwork, which they have to go, either scan directly or photograph and scan, and with a consequent shift in colours and loss of definition and that kind of thing.
yeah,
But yeah, once I started working digitally, I didn't expect it to be quite so liberating, really, because obviously you could undo mistakes without any problem, and you didn't have to worry about going wrong at any point. If you wanted a sort of nice airbrush sky, you could do one. If you cocked it up, you could just easily start again.
yeah, yeah,
If you were doing that with airbrush and you're halfway through and cocked it up, that was about another day's work you've got to go through, isn't it?
yeah, yeah,
Which happened to be on numerous occasions as well. You'd be airbrushing and the thing would suddenly decide to spit out a combination of oil and water all over the artwork. And yeah, that was no fun. But suddenly that was all gone. All those restrictions were lifted.
yeah,
Uh, I became much more productive, and it gave me more time to think stuff up. And it also meant that I could actually easily draw the stuff that I thought up. There
mm,
was there wasn't a great deal of trouble about doing highly complex backgrounds or something because I could do it on layers and build it up.
yeah,
I wouldn't have to work it all out in pencil beforehand and then ink it in. And this way, I could build up scenes by drawing separate parts and then moving them around, putting them together, and composing them on the screen, that kind of thing.
yeah.
It was a complete joy, and I took to that like a duck to water, really. And yeah, so I loved that.
Are you using a Wacom tablet and pen and that sort of thing?
Yeah, yeah. I'm still using here it is. There we go. You see that?
Ah, right.
Um, I've had a look at the Wacom Cintiqs where you basically just draw on the screen, and a lot of my
Yeah,
mates use that and they swear by it. But I've always found that there's that slight parallax between the tip of your stylus and where the mark actually appears on the screen. I always find that slightly off-putting. There's a very slight time lag as well, which I find really annoying.
yeah, yeah,
But with this is a Wacom Intuos tablet, which is basically I draw on this, and then it appears on the screen.
yeah,
And I've become quite used to working that way now. It's like working with an invisible pen.
Right. Yeah.
Although I've got an iPad Pro which I work on quite a lot as well, so that's which is brilliant anyway because there doesn't seem to be any time lag or
Yeah.
any problems with that. That's a wonderful piece of kit that is. So I do a lot of work on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, mainly when I'm doing stuff, I'm working on the Wacom Intuos and looking dead ahead with my hand doing something I can't see. But it seems to work. It was weird to start with because I just couldn't get the hang of that at all, really. And I thought, oh, this is going to work. This digital ideas in nonsense. But because I had to do it, I had to sort of buckle down to it and get cards done in digital form. I eventually, my hands and my eyes adjusted to the bizarre arrangement they had, and it all eventually became quite natural. And so
Yeah.
it's amazing how your mind adjusts to stuff like that. It was, don't think twice about it now. Um,
I, I still draw with a mouse, believe it or not. I'm still used to drawing with a
What?
mouse. Yeah, I know it's everyone thinks I'm crazy, but yeah, I could never get the hang of a. I have tried with tablets, not too much. I didn't spend too much time on it, but I can draw really well with a mouse. I'm quite fluid with it.
Yeah, really. What are you
Yeah,
drawing? Squares?
not tough. It's a lot better for precision stuff, So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, so it's nice. It's just so if you're doing something really close up and accurate. But yeah, I get if it's like an illustration, you have to be a bit more free flowing, don't you, with a pen? So
Yeah,
I can
yeah,
see the attraction there.
yeah.
Um, why greyhounds? Because I saw your dog last, and it wasn't a greyhound.
Well, yeah, the greyhound thing, it sort of started up by accident because we've had greyhounds as pets for quite a number of years,
Yeah.
and they're just weird creatures, really, and sort of fun to draw. But again, you can blame my wife for this again, but she was browsing through various sites on the web, and she came across this site. Called it the Adventures of Alice in Wooferland. That's right, which was it's a site all about greyhounds, which was supposedly written by a greyhound, right? And she said, "Oh, she's really funny. You have a look at this." And I thought, "Oh no, it isn't. It's just ridiculous." But anyway, I had a look at it, and it was written in a peculiar sort of pidgin English, which is supposed to be how a greyhound would write. And but anyway, it was all quite jolly. And I don't know why, but I'd drawn a cartoon of our greyhound called Magic, and I just posted it up on their site saying, hello, I've got a greyhound as well, and this is roughly what he looks like as a cartoon. And there was a sudden response of all the people on the followers of the site saying, "Oh, this is really funny. This is really who does this? And have you got any more?" So I thought, "Oh, yeah, okay, then so I did a few more cartoons of greyhounds and just for the hell of it, really.
Yeah.
Uh, I got well loads of likes on this site from people who were fascinated by the fact that I could draw these cartoon greyhounds. And it turns out that actually owning a greyhound is a bit like joining a cult. There's there's this really intense, enthusiastic fan base for greyhounds, and it's a worldwide fan base as well. And I kind of managed to tap into this just by I stumbled in, and one of the things I did was because greyhounds do some strange things, like when they I mean, people think they need a lot of exercise for a start, and they don't. They're actually most bone idle creatures you can imagine.
Right.
They can run really fast, but only for about 30 seconds, really. After that, they're knackered, and they'd rather have a nice lie down. And they'll lie down on a sofa or something, and their necks will hang over the edge of the sofa, and their noses will touch the floor, and their noses will bend at right angles, and they'll just go to sleep like that.
Hmm.
I drew a cartoon of Greyhound doing that, and I gave it a title, and I showed the behaviour of greyhounds as though it was like a dictionary entry. So I'd name the type of behaviour they were doing, like nose doze would be the one with a bendy nose. And I explain this in sort of uh, sort of like a formal way that a dictionary would describe the behavior of something. And this morphed into a book in the end. The response to the cartoons was so great that people kept saying, "Well, these should be in a book." So I thought, "Oh, well, yeah, okay, I'll see if I can get it into a book." And so I did, and I called it the Greyhound Glossary. And I think there was 50 separate illustrations in that, all with a sort of an entry. Like Zoomy is one, which is what greyhounds do when they go berserk and they just zoom around a field, usually in a big circle because that's what they're used to doing. And this was, sort of a cartoon of a greyhound running, and underneath was the word Zoomy, brackets, verb, or
Right.
whatever it was, and the unbridled joy of a greyhound expressed in motion, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's all pages like that, and they all bought it, and it sold like hotcakes, and I was amazed, and I got loads and loads of fans of my work then, and I thought,
Yeah.
well, I better set up my own page really, rather than having on Alice in Wooferland's page, sort of piggybacking on top of that. So I set up my own Facebook page and started putting up greyhound cartoons on there, and
Mm.
it very rapidly escalated with thousands of people following me. And I think at the moment I'm up to 46,000 followers now.
Bloody hell, well.
Yeah, that's quickly what I said. Yeah, and yeah, they're very enthusiastic about my work. They all like it.
Yeah.
They all think I'm a really nice person.
Just for the watchers, so what is your website address and where can they buy all this from your website, can't they?
Yeah, actually, the stuff I sell now, I go through a print-on-demand site called Redbubble.
Right.
And if you go to redbubble.com, search for Rich Skipworth, then you'll find my stuff there. Or even if you just searched on the web for Rich Skipworth, you'll find me there, because I'm all over the place now. But yeah, my website, I'm sort of closing that down really because I don't use it a lot because it was purely as a sort of professional portfolio really. I was using it,
Yeah.
and I have in theory retired, although it doesn't sound like it. So I abandoned working for other people basically, and just thought, well, I'm going to just concentrate on doing my own stuff. So,
Yeah.
which is quite a pleasant way of doing it.
Mm.
Again, no interference whatsoever from art
Yeah.
directors.
You've been involved a lot with the Cartoonist Club of Great Britain as well, haven't you?
Yeah, yeah.
Which is great. I only found out about it myself recently.
Oh yeah,
I was touting for as you know, interesting cartoonists to interview, and a guy called Ian Ellery.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So he told me all about it. But yeah, tell us about that. What's
Uh, yeah, CCGB well, it was originally set up in the early 60s. It was based around Fleet Street with the cartoonists that were working for the national newspapers. And they used to go and sort of meet in a local pub and have sort of meeting, but generally sort of get drunk, moan about clients, that kind of thing. And
yeah, yeah,
it was a sort of smallish club for Fleet Street cartoonists. But that kind of expanded when Fleet Street ceased to be the centre of the newspaper publishing industry, and it became a sort of nationwide occupation. All the newspaper publishers were spread across the country.
yeah,
And, consequently, the cartoonists was spread all over the country. Really, there's a lot more of them wound up working from home as opposed to calling at the newspaper office and printing cartoons that way.
Hmm.
It became a sort of more of a kind of diffuse nationwide thing.
Yeah.
Uh, it's still going fairly strongly today, as I'm the current chairman of the CCGB, and we're still holding sort of meetings and get-togethers and things, but it's not anything to do with national newspapers anymore. It's just people who do cartoons and Most of them are professionals, but we also take on a lot of people who are aspiring professionals because it's quite difficult to get work being a cartoonist anyway.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who are pretty good, but they haven't actually managed to sell anything yet. But we'll still
Yeah.
welcome. I'm quite happy to give them, advice on how to do cartooning, that kind of thing, who to approach if you want to try and sort of get any work, that kind of thing. And yeah, it's when we do get together, it's very good. And we had what was it, our six? Well, it was going to be our 60th anniversary not long ago, but that was in the time of COVID. So
Ah, bugger.
we had, yeah, so we had to abandon the celebrations then several times. And we tried to postpone it a year each time, but people were still, it was still COVID even then. So, but we finally managed to get it together on our 64th anniversary. And we had a sort of big meeting in London then, which went really well. And we're hoping to, well, we have done some quite interesting trips. We have mini cons.
Hmm.
And we had a regular mini con in Malta for a number of years, 7 years, I think. It was a hotel that a friend of mine has connections with. Actually, did a lot of the book work for them, and she managed to get us introduced to the management there, and we got quite a good sort of rate for the hotel. And we turned up there. Well, we didn't think it was going to work because we thought we'll arrange this thing and nobody's going to turn up. But they did. We had quite a big sort of turnout in our first Malta meeting. And the hotel had full sort of audio visual capabilities, so we could put stuff up on a screen. And then we had a couple of really interesting cartoonists who would give us demonstrations and lectures and stuff. And it all went really well. And so we carried on doing that. And yeah, it became a regular thing. But attendance died out after about 7 years. But we're trying to revive it now. The latest idea is minicon in the Italian Alps.
Oh, nice.
Which sounds very, very good. One of our members is with an interesting name called Akas von Hardenberg. It's a real name, and he's a lecturer in well, it's sort of like animal conservation, I think, in the Italian Alps, something like that. I'm sure he'll enlighten me when I see him again, because I always keep getting it wrong. But he looks after these ibex goats in
All right, yeah, yeah.
studies them, and he's a lecturer there. But he's also a cartoonist, and he joined up a couple of years ago, and he suggested that he could help us out with laying on a mini con in the Italian Alps. So that's in progress at the moment.
Excellent.
Just hoping somebody turns up. Yeah, that'll be good if he goes. And yeah, it's a good organisation to be part of if you're a cartoonist. They're all very friendly. I was surprised how welcoming they all were when I turned up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really been pretty good. I've been not sure how long I've been a member now. Must be at least 10 years, probably more.
Well, yeah.
So yeah, and then they elected me as chairman. Yeah, so I was, but happy to take up the post. Actually, it's quite an honour, really. all these proper cartoonists, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's very good. I like them.
Well, it's been an amazing chat, Richard. I've really enjoyed it. So thank you so much for that.
Oh, that's no pleasure. No trouble. No pleasure. Yeah. In every pleasure. Of course you have.
Okay, mate. Well, what I'll do is I'll let you know when it's live. But thanks again, and I'm sure that all the thanks for all the brilliant cards as well. I do recommend a lot of them. So.
Oh, really? That's good. Right. Okay then. Yeah. Cheers then, Sean. Thanks for all that.
You take care. Bye bye.
Bye.